The bog. I can't even whistle.
Can you even whistle?
Well, I can do this.
Well, that's not very good. That's surreal. Hi.
Hi.
What do you think about music?
I could take it or leave it, honestly. Now, okay, where do we begin?
You've got a show.
I've got a show.
You have a show, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a play. It's kind
Yeah,
of a show.
yeah, we can call it a
What
play.
do you call it? Do you call it a show?
We used to call it a piece, now we call it a play. It is, it's a play.
You used to call it a piece, and now you call it a play.
Piece sounded a little bit, maybe a little bit pretentious.
And it sounds like maybe it's 15 minutes.
Yeah, welcome to my piece. And also, it is a play. Plays can look like a lot of things, and
Plays
it
can
looks
look
like
like a lot of
this.
things, yeah.
But it's unusual.
It's a play with music.
Yeah, you know all about
Is
that.
it a musical?
It's not a musical.
It's a play with music.
Stories and songs.
It's a play/concert?
Yeah.
Or it's just a play.
Something like a
Just
concert,
play.
something
It's
like a
piece.
play.
I'm working on a piece.
I'm working on a piece.
How do you like that? How do you like doing a play with music?
Okay, you know what? I have a question for you.
Tell me.
What's the first song you ever wrote? Little Baby Will.
Little Baby Will did not write a song. Little Baby Will sang La Bamba. And
Where?
in my mind. No, my mom was a musician, and she did shows. She was a songwriter. She wrote the I-45 blues about I-45, Interstate 45 in Houston.
Cool.
Don't take I-45 after 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
That's the moral of the story.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Did she play guitar?
piano, harpist, jazz harpist.
Oh, I think I did know
would be her
that.
business card.
I think
but,
I've seen
but
a
like
picture
rock and roll piano player.
in your basement. Don't you have a picture of your
Yeah.
family? Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I wrote a song till, I don't even know if I wrote a song in high school, or if I played cover songs in high school. Did I write a song in high school? Might have faked a song in high school.
What were you covering?
We did a mashup of Leader of the Pack
Mm-hmm.
and Wild Thing and La Bamba and Twist and Shout.
Bamba's your jam.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
Classic. Literally a classic. Yeah, what was your first song that you wrote as a Widow Tiny Baby?
There's a Widow Tiny. I started playing guitar at 13.
Okay.
And at 13 I wrote, okay, 2 songs come to mind. I wrote one called Boys Aren't Cool.
Wow.
And when boys, they think that they're so cool, especially the ones in middle school. But if you ask me, they're a bunch of fools. That was
Wow.
my first. Yeah, it's like down, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
learned my
yeah.
first strumming pattern. I had this hippie guitar teacher named Ishmael Katz,
Wow.
who I think about often. I wonder how he's doing. He taught me the blues. He taught me the couple of like finger picking patterns that I still use. Do you find that like it's hard for me to mix up a finger picking pattern? Like
Yeah.
the first few you learn, it's just I always
It's just
go
how I
back.
play guitar.
Yeah, because it's a bit like doing this
Yeah.
too. So once you have that finger muscle memory, I just always do it.
Yeah.
So secretly, I'm almost always playing Landslide. No, I mix it up, but like half the
Yeah.
time I am going dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun. Yeah.
Or were you ripping off something with your boys in middle school song, or was it
No, that
So
was like from the
just
heart.
from the heart?
Yeah.
You weren't like, I'm gonna try to write a.
No, that's later. I mean, for sure. I definitely have a lot of songs that are secretly. I mean, we had that funny moment where I was like, "This is secretly New York, I love you," and you're like, "Oh yeah, my friend James."
Yeah.
Cool, your friend James. But yeah, I mean, I have a few songs that are secretly and ones that I won't give away. But do you have?
This is not that kind of
It's
interview.
not that kind of. It's not a tell-all.
Tell it.
Yeah, we can lose it. Okay, fine. It's Laura Marling.
What was I like? I think the first song I remember writing was like a Blondie ripoff in
Blondie's so good.
high school, because not in high school, in college, the film department did an annual battle of the bands, and then they would make a music video. Like they would make a music video as like a semester project, and it was quite the equivalent, it was like quite a high budget music video for equivalent. You know, it was probably like a $60,000 budget or something.
Damn.
Just because you have like 15 college staff, or, you know, like a lot of the,
Yeah.
but it was still like a real budget and like a, you know, student DP and all that. But it was around when the first Arcade Fire record came out. And so it was like my college cover band could like do a video with a higher budget than any of the Arcade Fire videos. So I was like, oh, but they only do, and it was just like this jokey cover band, but they would only do originals. So I wrote like a Blondie ripoff, and then we won.
You won. Wait, was it one band per school? Like, was it all the schools in the district, and then you had?
No. So this was college. This is Northwestern, and it was just the film department at Northwestern always made a music video for like for some project.
Cool. What was the video?
The opening, it was like a ripoff of the end of Breathless. Is Breathless? What's the what's the Jean-Luc Picard movie? What's the movie where he's like running down the street, he gets shot, and he's running down the street?
If Lucas were in here.
Anyway, I think it's Breathless, but it's just a ripoff of that, and then he's like flashing back through his life, and it's just like it's like a comedy flashing back through his life.
Do you still have it?
Like a fake Blondie song. I don't even think it's online, but I have to see if it's online. I might have it in like a very decayed hard drive, but
that'd be a cool thing to see.
I was actually just daydreaming, like, if I had all the money in the world, I would hire someone to go through my hard drives.
I wouldn't. I would not. No.
Let's
let
it
doubts
decay.
lie. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't want to see the old videos I made when I thought I had good ideas and I didn't. I mean, I feel like there's
maybe
an age.
Good, though.
Maybe some of them. I mean, for sure. I feel like there's an age where everything is endearing, and then there's an age where you're just stumbling and it's not really that.
Wait,
cute.
did you make videos? Like
Yeah.
music videos?
Well,
or just films? Feature films,
well,
pieces.
I made even just recordings of songs as they're coming together, or
right.
Things like that. But yeah, I have a couple of home video type things, and those would be sweet to see. But I think stuff I made in high school, no need. No one needs to see it.
Okay.
No one needs that.
How do you still mostly just sit down with a guitar, or how do you make music?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, and I was gonna ask you the same, like, I don't know how it is for you, where you begin, because you're also an instrumentalist that I'm not, and an arranger that I'm not. For me, usually it's not, like, the guitar is pretty rudimentary and just supports the lyrics.
Right.
And the melodies too. I think I sort of sing at like a fraction of my capacity.
Right.
Because it's all just a vehicle to like get the lyrics out. So I think usually what happens is I'll have, sometimes it's just an enormous feeling.
Yeah.
And it would be probably too much to report. And I get like a flash of an image or maybe a metaphor, but I never want to expand on a metaphor in a song if it feels, like it's just for the sake of being poetic. But sometimes it really is the best way to describe something. And it's funny, it happened the other day. I hadn't had like a waft of a song in a while, and we were doing a workshop here, and my task is to sit very straight and not move. And I was like, oh my God, I had this wave of an image of something, and I almost wanted to be like, we need to stop the show, because I wanted to like write it down. And yeah, and usually it's a line or two, and then it composts for a while, and then I'll sit with my guitar, and after I already have like a compost pile of lyrics and images. And yeah, I mean, what about you? Like when you put the voice memo on the phone, when you're like, is it a lyric?
It's often a line. Yeah, I have a lot of 15-second voice memos that most of which I just never return to, but just like ba ba dee ba da ba 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 ba. Sometimes a lyric, but often just a melody, or like a melody plus a beat, or not even a melody, just like a thought, a bass line or something.
I was wondering about that with you. Do 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 do. Saturday night's my jam. So how did Saturday night begin? Because there's so many things that feel like the catch. Or that's the cool thing about your music, is it's very eventful, but it's never too much, and it's also visual for me too. Like I see some things climbing up and some things falling down, and it's hard to describe. But like Saturday Night, there's that bass line that boom 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 feels like I can almost see this Mickey Mouse bouncing ball that's like bouncing down the stairs. And then I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, the piano that's kind of like boom boom dun dun dun. Anyway, which came first?
I mean, that song has the most backwards, that's like the most convoluted composition process of, it's like so stupid.
Of all of them on
the full process for that song is I bought a tape machine. I bought a 4-track reel-to-reel tape machine because it was the pandemic and I needed to feel alive, so I wanted to buy something.
Oh, I'm still there.
So, well, I wanted to repair it anyway. I had a 4-track that was busted. I went to repair it. The guy was like, throw this in the garbage. Like, this is not worth repairing. He's like, but I got this one. I was like, okay, I'll get it. So I had a 4-track machine. And then I wanted to make a tape loop. So, like, the way you make a tape loop is you, like, I mean, basically you just unspool some tape, you cut it at a diagonal, and you unspool it, and you cut it at a diagonal, and you tape the ends together, and then you have a tape loop. If you want it to have a rhythm, you can either just make it and then it develops its own rhythm, or you can like record and like mark where the note is hitting the tape and then cut it where the note is hitting the tape. So it was like I made a tape loop of like 90 BPM and I invited my drummer Miles over and was like, let's just make a beat. And this was like 2 years before this was a song. It was like, we're just gonna need to make a beat. And so we just made a beat on a tape loop with all these weird time changes in it. So it's like, and I was like, cool. He was like, what is going on here? I was like, I don't know. I don't even know what's going on. So it was like, we just made a tape beat. Like a slow tape beat. But then on the tape machine, if you press the button, then it goes fast. I mean, there's like a half speed or a full speed. So it was like, how much time do we have?
Can I keep doing that for 40, 45 minutes?
So that song started as a slow, weird tape loop that then got a song built around it. And then at the end of that song, I made the tape loop go fast. And then just did a thought at the end of that tape loop randomly. It was like, boop, ba-doop, boop, 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 ba-doo, ba-doop, doop, doop, da-doo, doo. And then Miles was like, I like that. And I was like, sure, man, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I hear you talk about your process, because you play so many instruments and you work with bands. So, like, it's a constant just iterating. Like, yes, no, try this, try that. That sounds good. That sounds bad. And I write music alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I do some of. This was like very explicitly like a collaborative, like, I'm just going to trust what you say, and then you trust what I say, and then we trust what Julie says. And it just like, it's a band dynamic, building it that way. Like taking the compost pile and like being like, here's my compost pile. Like, you grow a carrot in it. Yeah. It's like, I grew a fucking radish. Cool. I love radishes.
Yeah. I mean,
but yeah, sitting alone with a lyric, is a different beast.
Yeah.
Which I, at this stage in my life, I'm so, there's something about collaboration now the last few years that's so appealing.
Yeah.
Where then you can, if you have someone you trust, then you can have 1/3 of a lyric or 2/3 of a lyric, and you just see in their eyes if it makes any emotion or not. I mean, do you do that at all, or do you just build it until
I mean,
until
I
you like it or until it's done.
I want
before
that.
you-
It's
before you
amazing.
release it.
It's like when I hear my friends talking about writing in a writer's room versus writing a play by yourself,
Right.
like it sounds very appealing. I've written all of my music just alone on the guitar. And then sometimes there are really sweet moments where I'll harmonize with a friend. Like my best friend has the most beautiful voice I've ever heard. And like when we sing together, it feels so good.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were playing together, I described it to Lucas as like, I felt like you dressed me in something gorgeous. And I looked in the mirror and was like, is that me? I mean, it just feels amazing to like bring, this bare bones, like, song and then have you do like some anthemic synth on it, or I mean I want that more often. But no, I don't. I have so many playwright friends and not as many musician friends anymore. And I used to play out and used to play at like Rockwood and I love that. I have a really good friend who's like the most gorgeous cellist I've ever known, and I never really got back into it post-pandemic.
But when you played with your cellist friend, would you just bring completed songs?
Yeah,
or was
I
this
would
like,
just
here's a song, let's play this song.
Yeah. And it would feel, I would love to like, look at the compost with someone and build something out of it. And I've never done that. It's been, like I came to you, it was like, here's the whole song. What do you put on top of it? Versus like stacking together and taking away together. I mean,
I've seen that process go wrong as much as it's gone right too. Like it has to be like a match. Like when it's not a match, it's the same as having a horrible producer. Like, what about this actor? And you're like, no. Or like, actually make the third act the first and a half act.
Yeah,
that's the thing that a producer would
that's
say.
That's a theater thing, right? First and a half act.
But it's like there's also just like the horrible collaboration and someone giving you your idea and being like, not only is that a bad idea, it is taking ideas from my soul. Like that happens as well. So I don't want to sing the praises of collaboration too much. People are awful. People.
Oh yeah, the right people.
And it's also the right people for the right moment, which I'm learning. I've like now lived long enough to learn that too. It's like, oh right, it's like there's a season for all things. And now that I've lived like long enough for like the first generation of couches in my life to die, you're like, all right, couches die.
It's a martyr. Couches die, guitars die.
Like creative relationships change. Oh, I need a new couch. It's so annoying. A nice couch is so expensive.
A nice couch is so expensive. A nice guitar is so expensive. The wood on my guitar is like lifting from the humidity of probably being in Florida a lot. And I guess it's kind of humid in New York, but like going back and forth. And so I've got this split on the body and had to get that new one, which I love. I'm looking at it now.
Is the guitar that just died, is that the guitar from when you were 13? Or is it
I had a little parlor guitar, this small Olympia, when I was 13. And it looked like a full-size guitar. I have a picture, actually, I just found the other day, and it's very sweet, where I'm playing guitar and I'm so small, and I wanted to play sooner, but my hands had to get bigger. I think I was probably 6 when I told my mom I wanted to play, and she was like, okay, we'll wait for you to be, a little older. And actually, maybe I started playing when I was 10 or 11, but didn't write music till I was 13. I also wrote a song called Everything's Eventual.
Wow.
Very self-serious. Everything's eventual, everything must die.
Wow.
Though sometimes we ask ourselves, ... why? Which is still what all my songs are about.
I did write a poem when I was 13. I was more of a poem writer than a songwriter, but it's similar vibe. But I wrote a poem when I was 13 that got second prize about like an old man preparing for his death.
Wow. How much does death factor into your songwriting? Is it all secretly about death?
I don't think it's secretly about death. I think not. How about you?
A lot of it.
A lot of it?
Yeah.
Secretly or not so secretly?
Secretly or not so secretly. I love you so much I could die. Not so secretly.
It's in the title.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of returning themes now.
Do you think of yourself as having a lyrical school? Do you belong to a school?
Oh, that's
Do you
an
have
interesting question.
do certain kinds of lyric writing either repel you or just
Yeah.
you can't you admire them but you just
Yeah,
have
yeah.
no access to them, or like,
Yeah.
do you have
I mean, I really
do you have a
like.
tradition?
I think so. I think so. Although I don't know if I could describe it so much as there's like a constellation of reference points where it's like, yeah, no. But I really like direct. I mean, like I Love You So Much I Could Die, which I wrote for Lucas and like tailored the song to something that not only he could like, but that he could literally understand. Because Lucas has a funny thing where he can't hear song lyrics. He can't hear words that are sung. It just kind of like registers as white noise to him. So he can understand speak singing, like, you know, speaking of, but LCD Sound System or like, so I knew I wanted to speak sing this song for the most part so that it's, you know, it's for everyone at this point, but it's for him. And the lyrics to that are so direct. It's literally like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And then sometimes out of that, I feel like I earn a moment of something a little more poetic. But I tend to respond, like, I mean, I grew up on Fiona Apple. I know every single lyric to, I feel like she is probably the master of, like, metaphor to communicate what I really mean instead of to obscure what I really mean. And Mitski is my new number one, and I feel that she... God, I also love the specificity of Mitski and of people like Minsky and of the feeling of like there's no need to explain, but we still get what she means. I mean, like on her latest record, the thinking of the song where she's like, on an inconvenient Christmas, I ate a whole cake, a whole cake, in the, you know, she like repeats a whole cake, don't take my job from me. I mean, I like stuff where the first time you hear it, it's almost too specific to be for anybody. And then it becomes so meaningful. I mean, that doesn't really answer your question of like what kind of school am I in. Yeah. I don't really respond to...
Vaguely intended.
Yeah. I don't really respond to stuff that's kind of too... that feels too poetic, or of course, like when you feel that the rhyme is not to communicate what you really mean, but to rhyme. Like, I think directness is really moving to me. Yeah. It's funny, I have to like index and think of all of the lyrics that I love, and I'm seeing it kind of like exploding in my head in like little fragments of songs that I love, and yeah. What about you?
I don't know. Now it's my turn to...
Well, I mean, I feel like I can speak on your stuff a little bit. You also do that thing that I like with, you know, Regina Spektor or Mitski or any number of people where it feels like you're pulling from a bunch of images and references or things that just came to you and you're like, yeah, that works. Like I'm thinking about... All right, wake up, bake the bread. I'm trying to think of the lyrics in Anna, and it's like, I couldn't tell you what the story is, but it's also not meant to be like this cogent thing that's, I could recite exactly what it is, but I could feel it. And, you know, I like how kind of abstracted a familiar story is, because it's like, oh, that sounds familiar. Wake up early, bake the bread. I know what that means. And the next part, it's like, I don't know what that means, but I'm getting a picture and a vibe, you know? Yeah,
it's, I mean, there's definitely something of like the New Order school of like the band. We're just like, oh, you got blue eyes, oh, you got gray eyes, oh, you got brown eyes. And you're just like, what are you, like Blue Monday? Just like, what are you, it's very, the words are all comprehensible, but it's very, and it's not, it's not overly poetic, but it's very vibe-based.
Yeah. Yeah, or talking heads. Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I write plays, I'm trying to capture ideas, and when I write music, I'm trying to capture feelings. And
Yeah.
so I find it harder to talk about songwriting than I do playwriting because it's sometimes just something you like pull out of the wall. Or I
Yeah.
described it as like a waft, and that happens too. It's like you get a waft of a song, and then you have to like follow it, and then it goes away for a few days, and it comes back, and every once in a while, like something will come out really fully formed, and I'll just sit down and kind of write the whole thing, and I can't even explain what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, you're trying to, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do, but yeah, it's so feeling based, or like trying to evoke, like when the song is done, you want to remember what the feeling would have been while you were listening. Like
Yeah.
there's so many, it's so layered but intuitive.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes I feel I also love a 2-minute song. It's like, why
Yeah.
not if that's all you had to say?
Yeah.
Or a song with just a couple verses and no chorus. Sometimes I'll feel like a verse comes to me or a chorus or
Yeah.
both, but then the second verse, I'm like, oh God, I feel myself muscling to just make something that fits in, like where the phrasing is the same as the first, but I'm out of things to say, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's more space for that now.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's just music is just like, so it's just anything. Structurally, it's just
Yeah.
anything. Like we're not in like a big AABA
Yeah.
format.
Yeah, and I
world
only
right
have a
now.
few that are that too. Yeah. I was thinking about the songs in the show, like the first couple don't even have choruses really. And then by the time this more satisfying, like familiar song comes, it comes at the right time and it feels more anthemic because it's like, yeah, this is the first one with the
Yeah.
chorus and a bridge, and
Yeah.
it's made to sound like that satisfying thing. And but sometimes it's just 5 verses that come to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe like a moment where, la la la, and
Yeah.
then it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to, again, like just crossing a line at a certain point, being like, oh, how I related to song structure was also a period of time. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, and
yeah.
now I'm getting a glimmer of like some other thing where it's like, oh, it's just a verse and a chorus, or it's just 5 verses, and it's like, oh, it used to have just be verse, chorus, but there's like it's interesting to observe yourself changing. Whereas, I mean, like, again, because like my relationship with music becomes really conscious when I'm like a teenager, and so, but it's both like you're consciously choosing what you like, but it also feels like so natural and so just is what it is, and it
You
is
also
the
grow up
truth.
on the stuff that your parents play in the car, that they play in the
Yeah.
house, and it's like some of that stuff I still know all those lyrics by default, and then, or some of them it's like, yeah, I know this because it's what my mom played when she made dinner, and so it's familiar, and that
Yeah.
feels good. But like, of all the stuff that my parents played, I was like, Tom Petty, yeah. I mean, that reminds me of my dad. My dad listened to a bunch of stuff, but then Tom Petty I still listen to weekly.
Yeah.
And then, of all the stuff, Fiona Apple, yeah. And then there's other stuff that's sort of just sweet because it reminds me of them, but it's not my taste.
Yeah. Yeah. We're stealing a lot of Tom Petty this year.
You are? With Sister Squares? Or
No, with for Stereophonic.
With Stereophonic.
Just like, listen to a Tom Petty record. Listen to
He's
a Tom
so
Petty record.
good. Yeah. He's so good. And from Gainesville, which is close to where I grew up.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I think of Tom Petty as coming from the most random place in the world, but it's not random to you.
Not random to me. No, I know Gainesville well. He's so beautiful.
How did we meet?
We met through Lucas.
We met through Lucas.
We met because of this show. I mean, we didn't meet before the show.
Right.
Yeah, but at this point, that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Things move slowly and then they move quickly. Yeah, we met because you were going to do arrangements on this. Did we first meet at your house? Yeah, we came over.
I think you came over.
I came over and we played music.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're very, you kind of get things quickly. Like I remember playing the song and you being like, well, let me just like diddle a little on top, and did something extremely beautiful very quickly, and then turned around and we're like, what do you think? I was like, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that was a fun day.
Yeah.
We just played around and had snacks, and
Yeah,
2022?
we emailed a bit beforehand, you like wrote about you sent me the piece.
Yeah.
I heard the piece.
The piece.
Well, because I heard it as an audio
Yeah.
thing, so it really wasn't. It was a recording of a play, but I'm not saying piece in it. Anyway,
We could say piece.
so yeah, I got the MP3 of the show before we met, which it's like it's an interesting way to meet someone.
I know.
And then to work on it also, and then to be like, oh, and then I mean, it actually wasn't particularly intense. It was very light and lovely, but potentially is like an
but you know
intense way
what?
to meet
It's
someone.
sort of like even the playing field, because I had listened to your music for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of in a way knew a bit about you before too, and sometimes it's tough when you meet someone that you've spent some time with, even though it's not them, but you know, music is a pretty personal thing, and like bridging that gap. And yeah, I was listening to, I mean, your solo stuff, and obviously too had like grown up on Arcade Fire. I mean, one of my like high school boyfriend made me a mix CD of Arcade Fire, and I like learned how to drive to that. So you know, we're coming in with sort of known you for my whole life, but yeah. But and I also had heard you and Lucas did the Christmas thing, and I thought that was a good reference point. I love that little piece, the monologue, and you played. Was that the pump organ?
That was a pump organ.
Yeah, it sounded so good. So yeah, that's how we met through the play.
Yeah.
It's funny. I feel like I've known you for longer, but this is an intense way to meet.
Yeah, and it's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I remember when we were playing down in my basement, and I did like a harmony on a thing, and you were like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
That sounds like you're singing harmony on a record.
Yeah,
and
that
now
I
we're
know
just
very
doing
well.
it in the basement. I was
Yeah.
Like, right. That's really funny. That's a funny
Yeah,
way
what
to meet
was it?
someone.
It was things will change. It was the fourth song in the show. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Yeah. I like singing with you. It's fun to harmonize with a friend. Yeah.
But then we cut it from the show.
But I know we did.
No,
I
not
know.
another voice.
We have to have expectations in the right place
Yeah.
about this, because you know people are going to be like, I can't wait to see this Will Butler show. It's like, it's going to be a little.
No,
bit of that, but
people are asking what I did for the show, and I'm like, basically it was just like, sounds great. Like we did a process, and then it was like, this sounds great, actually. Sounds great as is.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Like, just send me the check.
Yeah. Well, I mean, funnily enough, you've ended up being something like a dramaturg, maybe more of a dramaturg, and like making calls on how things look, and like what?
That's funny. No, it's true. It's been an enjoyable process.
Yeah.
But it's a funny turn.
I know, because we had like a big pile of stuff, and then we ended up paring back, and the piece is so minimal. Any slight movement like changes everything.
No, and that's like, I didn't, but I don't want to overstate my involvement, but that was like Rick Rubin's process with like Johnny Cash, who was like, oh, actually, like we had Flea play bass on a thing, but actually, and Flea's a great bass player, but let's just use the thing where Johnny Cash is playing guitar and singing, because it's super vibey.
Yeah, knowing when to take away.
Like,
although I totally fantasize about the Will Butler treatment. I mean, I want to hear one of these songs or all of these songs with like all of the stuff that you do on top. I mean, there's always so much going on in your music. I want that. It's fun. And I told you too, it must feel so good to make music people can dance to. I wouldn't know anything about that. I got some good news the other day, and I put on Saturday night and was like, I put on some horrible like LMFAO songs and put on some just like bad, shitty music I listened to in Miami. But then I put on Saturday night too, because that's like my pub up song. Now it's dancing alone in my room. And I mean, I wonder what that would feel like to know that like people get good news and they put on my songs and they dance. And I think if my music were ever like, streaming for people to listen to at home, they would be like having a glass of wine by themselves and
Do you think
sentimental.
Do you think of these songs as independent, or are they only in this, or do they exist?
Oh yeah, I mean, okay, let's see. There are 5 songs and 5 stories. The first 4 songs I wrote all in like 2020 in post, so around the time I was writing the stories. And then the final song is the only song that I wrote I wrote that in college. And but yeah, I definitely see them as they're not just the show songs to me.
Yeah.
And there are any number of songs that didn't make it in too.
Yeah.
Even one that I like better than some of the others. I really like that song, but it just didn't fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just
Do I
didn't.
know it? Yeah, maybe I haven't heard it.
I don't think you have. I'll play it for you sometime. Actually, it'd be fun to play on that together. Yeah, I could hear that with drums or. But yeah, the final song in the show is the only song that I wrote quite a long time ago that I still like, that I feel still represents me. Most of them, I feel like they were written, 10 people ago. I don't even recognize what was on her mind. But this one, like, I don't know where it came from entirely. That's the one I was thinking of when I said a couple of times something has just come out fully formed in a way that you can't even quite take credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense. That's the last one in the show.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Do you have any old songs that still feel like that's me? That's exactly still me.
No.
No. Yeah. No.
I mean, I have old writings or even old books that I didn't write that I read. I'm like, oh, it's the old me, or it's me. It's still me. But
Yeah.
I get it, weirdly, I get it more from reading than from anything I've ever produced.
Like reading
Just
old
reading a
stuff
book.
that you,
No, not even
books that you loved,
yeah.
and you're like, I still love
It's
it.
like, this is some element of me still.
Yeah, totally.
And sometimes with a voice memo. You're like, put on a voice memo and be like, what?
Yeah, I have a lot of abandoned voice memos, and then sometimes I'll get in a sentimental mood and listen back to old stuff, and I'm like, I never finished that, but that's actually, I love that.
Some message from the beyond.
Yeah.
Bit. Yeah.
Unfortunately, too, I mean, I guess not unfortunately, but like sometimes it's just perfect as it is with that kind of low quality. It doesn't sound great. It's kind of like tinny or echoey or whatever, and it's like 2 lines and 20 seconds long.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's no one to share it with, but I like that little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few of those.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for an aspiring artist? It's okay if the answer is no.
I think say what you mean. I mean, there's probably like that beginner brain period where people really say what they mean, and in that period when you're trying to sound like other people. I have that in my playwriting trajectory for sure.
Yeah.
But then with music too, like even, I was joking about boys aren't cool and everything's eventual, but I think I was just saying what I meant, and then maybe for a while trying to sound like, Sheryl Crow for 10 years or Fiona Apple or Tom Petty. And now I'm back to like really trying to say what I mean.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I'm just a big fan of compost piles. Like a big fan, just like keeping stuff and like not fearing. It's a weird thing to say, don't fear editing, but it's like something like not fearing editing of returning to a thing, like just being a dog returning to its vomit over and over again until you refine your vomit and it's a very pure vomit. I don't know. There's something about making a pile and not being scared of it and being scared of it and not being scared of it and being scared of it and not being scared of it.
Totally. I mean, Lucas and I talk about this with plays, that to write a play is not to fill a glass with water. It's to fill an ocean and then dip the glass into the ocean. And,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much stuff that just like goes to the side or ends up becoming like, I mean, for you more than me, I'm sure, because of how much arrangement you do. It just becomes like, and, that's the one little piece of the longer thing you were playing with. And it's like, no, all you need is the
Yeah. So that's what I say. That's what I tell the kids.
That's what I tell the kids.
That's what I tell the kids
vomit,
these days.
Dog, vomit. Yeah.
Don't smoke cigarettes.
And
eat a healthy breakfast.
Eat a healthy breakfast,
and
kids.
do that. And is
Yeah,
come
don't
to the,
smoke cigarettes.
Come to the
Don't
play
smoke
at the,
cigarettes.
at the New York Theater Workspace. New York, Tarrytown.
New York Theater Horizons.
New York Theater Horizons. We've been Will and Mona.
We've been Will and Mona.